Hey everybody, and welcome to the Women Going Big podcast. It's Krista, your host, and I'm thrilled to be here with you on today's Monday, so whatever day it is that you're listening, I hope that it's a great one. And I'm thrilled to introduce my guest today. Tara, thank you so much for being here.
I'm
Tara,
so excited.
Tara is the founder of Making Cancer Fun, and she has such a powerful story, you guys. I literally cannot wait for her to dive in, and that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to hand it over to her to kind of tell you guys a little bit more about herself and her journey. Tara, take it away.
Well, thank you. I was so excited when I heard about this podcast because the focus was women. And that really kind of touched my heart. So I'm honored to be here and I love what you're doing. And I think right now the timing of this in 2020 is so needed because the more that women come together, the more powerful we are. And I think this year particularly has really hit women, particularly women who have children, because I was talking to somebody, she called me for a reference for my old babysitter. And she was saying how she and her husband are both home working virtually. She's got 2 little boys who are starting virtual homeschooling. And she's like, even though we're both home working virtually, guess who they go to all the time? Mom. You know, there's a whole different dynamic that women are juggling this year that's really unique, you know, than maybe other members of the family. So I think the more support and encouragement and how we hear and are transparent with each other, how there's this idea that we have to look like we have it all together. And one of the things I will clearly always tell everybody is I have nothing together. And anybody who pretends they have it together, I have to tell you, they're pretending. Nobody has this figured out. Nobody has it all together. Yeah. And I think that takes the pressure off of all of us, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's been interesting this year. So my story, I mean, really our story starts when we're born, right? Mm-hmm. Like everything that happens to us is part of who we become as adults. But my story really started probably, oh gosh, been a while now. So I'll go back to 2008. I was running a very successful business. I had gotten involved in direct sales in my early 20s that I did as my third part-time job, thinking it was just going to be something to do while I was finishing up college. And I ended up turning it into a career. Mm. So I built this huge successful business. We're selling hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's one most people know because it's been around for 57 years. I drove a pink Cadillac, so that will give it away. And I'm like, this is awesome, working at home, had just had a baby. My daughter wasn't quite 2. And I was going through really severe depression. I mean, very severe depression. And I knew something was wrong because it got to the point where I didn't even really want to get out of bed. Yeah. Like, and I didn't care about my business anymore. And I knew, well, that's not like me. I've always been very driven, very motivated. And everybody kind of equated it to, you have this new baby. Well, I came back from speaking at my first big time. The company had invited me to speak at a conference, and I came home, and within, I think it was 48 hours, my ex-husband was arrested on a domestic violence assault against me. And that was the beginning of my entire world spinning out of control and really becoming educated on not only domestic violence, but emotional and psychological abuse and all of this stuff. And it was a period of almost feeling like these blinders being taken off my eyes, where I had felt like, what was wrong with me? What was wrong with me? What was wrong with me? And I remember the moment when I went, oh, it's not me, it's him. And there's a book, actually, I recommend every single woman I think should read it. And I think all of our high school students should read it before they graduate high school. It's called Why Does He Do That? Into the Minds of Angry and Controlling Men by Lundy Bancroft. He's a leading authority in abuse. And I'm reading through the book like, no, this isn't me. This isn't me. Why did somebody recommend this book? Until I got to one chapter and I was like, this man knows my life. And it was, it was devastating. Yeah. But it was also, you know, it's kind of like the truth will set you free. And all of a sudden I realized, well, I'm not depressed. There's nothing wrong with me. It's, I've been in this horrific, manipulative relationship for so long. And that year was really tough. I had to turn in my pink Cadillac. There were stalking charges, and you're very easy to find when you're driving a big, huge pink Cadillac. I was dealing with, you know, courts every day. It was scary, you know, and then going through a divorce, you know, obviously that spawned a divorce right away, and then dealing with that. And the same year that I was going through my divorce, was 2009, I'm in the middle, you know, divorce happens. It's in February. Still dealing, we actually had spent 6 years in court, so my divorce was not a quick thing. But February was the legal, like the day I got my name back. And my daughter had been complaining. She had been sick. She had just turned 3 now at this point. couldn't figure out what was wrong, multiple doctor visits, couldn't figure out what was wrong. And 2 days before Thanksgiving, ended up in an emergency room. And she was diagnosed with high risk stage 4 neuroblastoma. So it's the third most common childhood cancer. And and it has one of the lowest cure rates in the childhood cancer world. So although I don't know, I think now, when they said to me, oh, we're so sorry, this is like one of the lowest cure rates. I can't imagine anybody celebrating because they heard, oh, my kid has a cancer with a higher cure rate. Like it's still, you're finding out your child has cancer, right? It's devastating. And so that I had already kind of felt like I was sitting on the floor, and that just pulled everything out from underneath me. And it became part of what I now call my 5-year, 6-year life crisis. And it was really tough. I mean, my daughter, we checked into the hospital 2 days before Thanksgiving, and we did not check out for 78 days straight. Wow. And then that year we would go home for a couple, 2-3 days, and be back in the hospital for a month, and then home for 2-3 days, and then back in the hospital for a month. And that went on for, well over a year.
Wow.
And it was tough. And in the middle of that, in that whole process, also trying to navigate through a very abusive, controlling, manipulative, dynamic with my ex-husband, who still was allowed to see her. He was her other parent. And it was really difficult. And then so my daughter went through, chemo, 8 hours to take her surgery, remove her, all that kind of stuff. And at that point, because I felt like I had no control over anything, at all, I said, well, I can't control anything. I can't control the cancer. I can't control this situation. I can't control if she's going to live or she's going to die. They're telling me there's not pretty good stats for her living. Yeah. So I don't know, maybe I'll only have a few weeks left or a few months left with my daughter. So, when you feel so out of control, what do you hang on to one thing that you can control as a coping skill. And so the coping skill that I chose was I was just going to have fun. I was going to have as much fun as we possibly could. And at the time, some people in the hospital thought we were a little nuts. We started throwing parties. I started dressing in costumes. We had, themes for everything. We became infamous, our tumor stomping party when my daughter's tumor was taken out. We had a huge party and blew a picture of it up into a poster and shot it with marshmallows. And just everything became about how much fun can we have.
Yeah.
And and we got through that, and she completed treatment, and literally 2 days before she was done with her treatment, my ex-husband was arrested again on another domestic violence assault, this time with the current girlfriend, but my daughter was injured in the process. And she was there visiting. And so then went back into, courts and his thing, because as a minor, I was her advocate. So it was a very difficult season. It was exhausting emotionally, mentally. And when you're kind of on this for so long, the good thing is now we have, it's been years. My daughter has not seen her father since she's 5, which is sad in most cases. In this case, I think is and an unfortunate blessing, really. But life is so calm and peaceful and beautiful. And today actually is her very first day of high school.
Oh my gosh.
And exciting. She's a freshman in high school. It was a virtual schooling day.
Yeah.
So she'll have her official first day on Thursday. Okay. But, I think for any parent, right, we're emotional when our kids start the first day of school. But certainly for a parent who was told your child probably will never live past 7, much less to now be, 14 starting high school, is just, I feel like I look at this breathing miracle every day.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable. And so now I've rebuilt my direct sales business as a single parent with a child full time. I like the freedom and the flexibility of direct sales, but I've also started kind of a side hustle of supporting families who are going through childhood cancer, wrote a book, ended up doing a TED Talk, talking about the benefits of fun. And what's been really cool, Krista, this season right now, because with quarantine that happened, we went into full quarantine. I'm in Jersey. Yeah. So we went in March, in full lockdown quarantine.
Yeah.
And even now with going back to school, the message is really the same. So my message to parents going through childhood cancer is you're the mirror for your children. Yeah. Your children are going to experience this largely based on what they see from you, And I feel the same way about quarantine.
Yeah.
You know, if quarantine is the worst thing that's ever happened to us and we can't deal and it's stressful and our kids are hearing these, they're going to experience it that way.
Yeah.
And virtual schooling. You know, I had posted last night, I saw all these parents just, I'm so stressed out about virtual schooling. I'm so nervous about it. I'm so anxious about it. And our children are nearer. And so that's how they're going to feel. And I posted, I am so excited about virtual schooling because who knew I was going to get to have lunch with my daughter on her first day of freshman school.
Yeah.
And that like, I was going to get to go to school with her on her first day. And this is awesome. Like she's home right now and it's the middle of the afternoon. And I think in 4 years, she's going to be off in college and I'm not going to have that much time with her. So I am grateful for every little second that I have with her. I didn't walk in at one point and she was sprawled across the bed. And I was like, well, this is going interesting. And I figured there's going to be hiccups and there, you know, she has hearing aids from her treatment. So we've been a little bit nervous about Zoom and how that's all going to work out with masks because she's a lip reader. So, and how to log in and all of that. But I think that, you know, that's, you'll figure it out, right? Yeah. This is where she's going to build her resiliency. And I think resiliency, whether it's in business, whether it's in life, whether it's in wanting to start a business, like resilience is it's our power and it's a muscle that we have to exercise. And for some people, this year has been their first year they've ever had to exercise that resiliency muscle. And I'm like, well, lucky you. I don't know how you made it this far without having to do that. Yeah. But that's a muscle I want my daughter to have super, super strong when she leaves here and goes out and becomes an adult. I want her to know that she's super resilient. She can get through anything. And as women, we model that. You know, we model that for our families, our children. We model that in our communities. We model that at our jobs. Like women are, I think, just so resilient. They have this ability to bounce back. I mean, we birth humans out of our own bodies. Like we are resilient. Yeah. And it's where our power is, and we have a choice. You know, that's what I talk a lot about, is that we have a choice. We can't change what's happening around us. We can't change our circumstances. We can't always change, you know, these external things, but we can totally choose how we face things. And I believe there's a lot of power in facing things with fun.
Yeah. And that's one thing. You said something at the very beginning of your story, and I was one thing that I've really been focusing on, not only for myself, but even for people around me is like you said, choosing. So choosing to be happy, or choosing joy, or choosing gratefulness over the situation of where you are. Because like you said, much like everybody else, I know I'm not alone in this, is when COVID hit, like you said, there were so many things that were out of my control. Technically, I got laid off from my job. Thankfully, I still had a roof over my head, and like I still had food. I was in a position where like financially it wasn't that big of a deal, but I was like feeling like all the other energy out there, or, you know, the environmental impact of it. And I got super depressed. And that's actually what ended the first season of this podcast. Was I just wasn't feeling it. Like you said, I just lost interest. But I kind of came out of it and realized again that everybody has a choice. Like you had a choice when you found out your daughter had cancer to make the best of it and to have fun. And one of the things that was running through my head as you were talking about that was how, because you could have easily gone the other direction and you could have said, this is it. This is the cards that I've been dealt, and like, yeah, I'm going to make the best of it. But what if you hadn't chosen joy? What if you hadn't chosen to have fun? And that's what I think that a lot of parents and just other people that get into those situations, whether it be cancer or like autoimmune diseases, or, you know, whatever it is, where they just decide that that's the card that they've been dealt and that there's no other way to deal with it, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the key things you said, I heard you say in the beginning just now, is choosing joy, happiness, and gratitude. And I have to say, I don't know that I've always been able to choose happiness and joy. I wish I could say that I've always been able to choose those. There's many times, even today, like that I don't feel joy or I'm not happy. I can always choose gratitude. And I think that's become a real go-to for me. One of the things that I did in the hospital was I started a grateful journal. And I would just write every night what I was grateful for, because it was so easy to focus on all of the scary things. Right. And you're right. When you choose that gratitude, like I lost my job, but I can be grateful that I have a roof over my head and that I have food. And what I've realized is, even when I've hit my rock bottom as an American is still way higher up than most of the world. Like I still have so much to be grateful for. Just, living in a first world country. Right. Yeah. And so gratitude is, I think, a go-to thing that we can train our brains to go to gratitude, even when we're not happy, even when we're not joyful. We can at least say, okay, I'm grateful that I'm alive, I'm breathing, I'm healthy. I decided this year that, I put it on my phone. My mantra that I have on my phone is that only good things happen to me. And so this has been my what I say all year is that this is my year, and only good things happen to me. And like every time I start to feel anxiety, I go, only good things happen to me. And then I heard a really good, I've always heard, what you focus on gets bigger. I'll tell you what, I just heard it said a little bit differently the other day, and I really loved it. I wrote it down because I've always said what you focus on gets bigger. And that's why I chose to focus on gratitude. Right. But I loved this. This was from the pastor at Searchlight Church. He said, what you focus on becomes the truth. And I was like, ooh, that's even more powerful. That because it becomes your truth. Yeah. Right. So it is, it's totally our choice. And I will say, you brought up an interesting point. There is, whether regardless of what you believe spiritually, science, just let's go down to basic science, is that we're all energetic beings, right? And down at the very core, we're just little spinning bundles of energy, and all of our energy is connected. And they've been able to do studies where they separate energy, and this, stimulate one piece of energy and the other one is still affected. So we're all connected through this kind of energetic field. Yeah. And there is, for sure, right now in our country, and is only going to, I predict, get worse leading up to the election, this like angst, this anger energy, and this stress energy, and this fearful anxiety energy. And I've been doing a lot of just sitting, taking a deep breath, and being like, I just need to rise above that, because there's still always a level of energy that's beautiful and peaceful. And that's always been and will always be. And so where do I want to connect into? Because if I allow everybody else's energy and the news and the media and my friends group on social media, or Twitter, it is going to be really impossible to have only good things happen to me. And so there is, I think there's an important part of self-care to go, put
your blinders on.
Like yeah, I mean, it's important to be informed. It's important to listen to the news. Should that be the first thing you start your day with and your last thing you end your day with? Probably not. Yeah. Right. It's okay to unfriend people. And if you feel like I can't unfriend people, there's actually a way that you can still be friends with them, but you just don't see their posts anymore. And there may be a lot of people that need to be filtered out of that, because it can trigger us. Yeah. And we have to be very conscious of, what am I going to allow in my space? When my daughter was going through cancer, the one thing I never let go into my space was fear, because it was so scary, and I had no idea if she was going to live, and I just would not let my brain go down that rabbit trail. And I would think, the question that I always would ask myself is, why not me? Because I hear a lot when people have horrible things happen to them. And I actually just saw this week on one of the cancer groups that I'm part of on Facebook, is a child was diagnosed, and it was, why me? And I think this is a natural thing. You lost your job. Why me? I lost my job. I started a business at a time that, I have a friend who opened a yoga studio. It was my yoga studio. I loved it. It was beautiful. She's an amazing teacher, but because of COVID has had to close it, and it was her first business. And it would be very easy to sit there and say, why me? Why did this happen to me? And whether that's you're going through a divorce, you find out your husband cheated. Why me? Like, there's that instant to go to why me. And I think one of the gifts that I had is I never asked that question. I never asked why me. I think it's a very narcissistic question. If I say, why me? Why did my child get cancer? I imply, well, I shouldn't have to go through that, but you certainly should. you know?
Yeah.
I'll use your job. I lost a job. Why me? Well, why not you? Why are
Yeah.
you so special that you get to go through life unscathed? All of
Yeah.
us have heartache. All of us have pain. All of us have hurt. I am sure that your listeners, if we sat down and had coffee, have way more heartache than you and I have had. You know, people have had horrible things happen to them, or as children, or growing up, and nobody gets through life unscathed. And so it's not so Mike turned it around to, why not me? Someone's kid is going to live. Someone's going to be the miracle. Somebody's going to be the 0.1%. Why not my kid?
Yeah.
Right? Somebody's going to lose their job. And then that's going to be become a springboard to a new career, a new business, a new life that 5 years from now, they'll be talking about how COVID was a turning point in their career, in their life. And why not you?
Yeah.
You know? So I just kept saying, why not me? If good things are going to happen to somebody, why not me?
Why not me? I love that so much. And I think it's a great way to kind of flip the natural response to, like you said, anything terrible that can happen. I mean, I'm kind of running through past scenarios in my head where, and I feel like, so I'm a Christian, but like spiritual people especially, I feel like constantly question, why me? Why is this happening to me? And so I love being able to kind of change that, because I mean, honestly, you just gave me like an extra tool in my bag for those hard conversations, because it's something that people can't explain. And people, we're kind of going down a different path, but I like this too.
Yeah, I like it. I'm up for, we said that we started. I'm like, we'll see where we end up going.
Yeah. I think people, like, for me personally, like, I think about the big picture. So I don't really phrase it like that, but whatever happens, it's part of my journey, and like I'm fulfilling a mission, like whatever that is, purpose, you know, whatever comes my way, I know that I just have to kind of handle. Like it's just something that, you know, I have to do. But I feel like a lot of people, you know, like you said, they question why it happened to them. And then I think they, like, on the flip side of that is, you also mentioned kind of being authentic and transparent and just telling your story. And I think that people need to share those things, because that creates connection. And I think people get through things better when they're going through it with somebody else that's been there, done that kind of thing. And I just, like you said, anybody that's listening that has had something traumatic or terrible happen, like, tell your story, because you never know what's going to come out of that, and everything happens for a reason. At least that's what I believe.
Well, and I think there's two important things that I heard you say, and it triggered. So I'm a Christian too. And one of the things that people would say to me when Emily was diagnosed is, well, God doesn't give you what you can't handle. God doesn't give you what you can't handle. And I know that they had that in the best intentions. I mean, what do you say to somebody when you just find out their kid's like 24 hours away from dying, right? But I remember it would trigger me, like, oh, because I'm strong, I get to have the kid who has cancer. Like, somehow God was like, well, she can handle it, right? And I couldn't. I felt like my whole life was falling apart. And that same week, our insurance dropped us because they said she had a pre-existing condition. The company I had just signed up for and had this huge contract with, the owner had a heart attack suddenly, and the company was gone. I mean, it was all this crazy stuff. And I just felt like every day I was getting more bad news. I can't handle this. And a friend of mine who's a Christian, she said to me, you know, Terry, I heard my pastor say that God doesn't give you what you can handle. God allows life to give you what you can't handle, so you have to rely on him.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really powerful, because I thought, well, then we're in agreement of what I cannot handle, but God can handle more than I can.
Yeah.
And I just have to trust. And even today, I mean, I had to come to a moment of, I get to be my daughter's mom here on earth.
Yeah.
Now, maybe she lives through cancer, but what if something happens to her when she's 20 years old? You know, I have a friend whose daughter was in college and was hit by a drunk driver crossing the street at school.
Yeah.
You know, I have another friend whose sister was in her 30s and died in her sleep. You know, anytime you lose a child before their time, it's always going to be too early, right? And so really just getting clear that we cannot control any of that.
Yeah.
And trying to control it is it's like trying to hold, you know, water in your hand. It's not going to work. So what can we control? I can control that I'm grateful for today. I'm grateful every day I get to be her mom. I'm grateful, you know, for today, virtual schooling. And that I said to her, well, nothing in your life has really been like normal. So this is just one more thing. And that's part of the adventure. This is why we have, this is the adventure of life.
Yeah.
I think that's really powerful. And then there was something else you said, and now it just skipped my mind. The last thing you were talking about.
I talked about kind of flipping the why me.
Flipping the narrative, the why me.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know now.
Oh no, maybe it'll come back.
All
It's
right.
okay. No, but I love that. And the other thing that you mentioned is the resiliency. And one thing that I like to do on the podcast is, from your point of view, and for anybody listening, because I've been really blessed with, I've been able to be an entrepreneur for, I think I'm going on like 7 years. So I've always been able to like make my own money and be my own boss. But I also know what it's like being at the bottom and thinking that, well, like you said, like, this is my card, so I'm just going to deal with it, but like, I'm not happy about it. And I know that there's women out there that also feel like that this is just the card that they've been dealt and they can't change it and they can't change where they are. So can you expand a little bit more on getting yourself out of being stuck or breaking yourself out of that, well, this is just where I am and I don't, either I don't want to change it or I feel like I can't change it.
And I think those are two important things to determine. Is it that I don't want to change it, or is it that I can't change it? And you are sometimes just dealt a card that you're like, dude, really? Can I put this one back and get a different one? Like, this is just not the one that I want, right? And sometimes you are stuck with that card. And so at that point, you can't change the card. You just can change what you're going to do with that card.
Yeah.
That's it. That's your only choice. And I think, this is what I was going to say before. Now you remember what I was going to say before about that transparency. I think there's a huge problem in our culture right now, and social media is making it worse. And I'm on social media, so I'm, I get this. I'm contributing to the problem. That we have to look so perfect. And I will tell you, two of my favorite posts in the last year was, I have a girlfriend who took her kids, cut their heads off and stuck them on last year's Christmas cards with Santa. And she said, I just couldn't get this year. Like, we go every year to take our pictures with Santa. This year I couldn't. So here they are. Here's their heads. There's their new pictures on their old Santa card. And I just love that, because how many of us feel that way? Like, I just can't get it done. And everybody else has their perfect Santa cards. And you feel like, I'm a really lousy mom because my kid doesn't have their Santa picture. And then I had another friend who posted her kids screaming at the bus stop. And she was like, this is like legit our first day of school picture. Yeah. And again, I loved it because, that is the reality for a lot of us. Our kids are hanging on us. They don't want to leave. And you're like, smile. I need to make it look like you're happy to go to school. And the more we kind of take down those guards, I think it gives people the freedom to feel okay with the hand that they got dealt and to stop judging themselves. Yeah. And so, a good question, if you're in a spot of first, is saying, if I'm in a spot and I've been in a rut and I've stayed in a rut and I haven't changed it, or I've felt like I've tried all these things to change it and none of them are working. I think this is your come to Jesus moment of, what's the benefit that you're getting from staying in that spot? Ooh. There is a benefit. Because if you weren't getting a benefit, you wouldn't stay in that spot. And I had this moment. So a couple years after my daughter's cancer, I thought, I ended up moving back to Jersey, was trying to reestablish myself. I was like, I'm going to be back where I was in a couple of years. And I had to have a real heart. Like, it was tough. A friend asked me this, and it put me very defensive. I will say that I was very defensive about this question, but it was a legit question. I was a victim. And truly legit, I was a victim. My ex-husband of domestic violence. Like, I have court certified papers that say, Tara, you're a victim. Yeah. Right. And in some ways I was a victim of, my daughter having cancer and being a cancer parent, that I, had her childhood taken away from me and life taken away from me. And those were things that I can control. But I also had a benefit from being a victim. I had the benefit that people didn't expect that much from me when you're a victim. I don't have to be my best. People make exceptions for you when you're the victim. You can say, oh, but this happened and I wasn't able to. And, oh, I totally get it. You're dealing with so much, right? I didn't have to push myself because I was a victim. I was taking time for self-care. Yeah. People give you stuff when you're a victim.
Yeah.
You know, you get special perks, you get special benefits. And so while I wasn't really conscious, it wasn't like I was trying to milk the system or not live up to my best. I had gotten very comfortable in the role that I was playing of I'm a single mom, so my life must be hard and I must be broke. Because single parents, you know, anytime I couldn't pay for anything, I said, well, I'm a single parent. People get that, right? Single parents, there's a story we tell ourselves that it's okay to be broke if you're a single parent.
Yeah.
Right? And that, and I got all these exceptions, right? And so I had to really say, how long is those benefits outweighing what I'm giving up? I'm giving up financial security.
Yeah.
I'm giving up what drives me and what motivates me. Like I'm wired to win, and I'm giving up that achievement because of these other benefits. Are those benefits really worth? And I didn't even see them as benefits.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's the first question when you said, do you want to change? Or are you in a rut? You have to really look and go, well, what are the benefits I'm getting from being here? And maybe that's why I haven't changed. And then if you want to say, okay, I acknowledge I'm getting these benefits. I'm willing to let go of these benefits because I want these instead.
Yeah.
And the next question I would ask myself is, well, what is the gift that this situation is giving me? You know, if we can acknowledge that this situation is giving me a gift. So for example, my ex-husband, what is the gift that situation gave me? Well, number one, it taught me I'm super resilient. Number two, it taught me I totally can understand how the court systems work now. Number three, it gave me my daughter, my biggest blessing, right? It also taught me that I can be independent and I can get through anything. And it also taught me a lot of red flags to look out for when dating in the future.
Yeah.
Now, I have not always been as successful as that number 5 one as I would like to be, but at least I'm getting better. You know, sometimes the one still slips under the radar, but I'm getting better. And so there are gifts that I've gotten from that situation, and probably that I would never have known how strong I was if I had not gotten through that. You know, so what are the gifts from that horrific situation? And if you can acknowledge the gifts, then I think each gift almost becomes like a stepping stone to step on to get out of that. You know, and there's huge power in gratitude.
Yeah. And I love everything that you said so much. And I felt it like on such a deep level because, like you said, I don't think a lot of people see it in the way that, like, when they're in a rut or they're stuck, they don't see it as like a role they're playing or a phase or a chapter. Like they see it as this is who they are. This is the life that they're living. This is just who I am and I can't change that. But when you put it like that, like it just kind of like sheds so much light on like how people can see it and that you can change the way you think about something. And if you think about it like, okay, who am I right now that, like you said, how am I benefiting from this and how am I letting myself do this? And then just acknowledging that and then saying, well, what do I want and what's getting in the way of that? Everything you said was just super, super powerful with that. I loved it.
Like, who am I really? Like, is that really who I am? Or is that who I've just let other people tell me that I am?
Yeah.
Is that really who my spirit is? Or is that just what culture and society and my family and my neighbors tell me I should be?
Yeah.
You know, but nobody is who they are, right? We know from neuroplasticity and the way the brain molds and mutates that you can literally rewire your brain until you're dead. Like there's at no age where the brain, they used to think, right, that your brain was kind of wired. And now they know that that is not true. You can continue to change your brain. So if you can continue to change your brain and can change how you think, then who you are right now is not necessarily going to be the same person that you could be in a year. So if you don't like who you are right now, and here's what I would say is that if you're in a rut and you're feeling that way, like I'm stuck and I'm always going to be this way, and that makes you sad, that should be your first red flag that that's not really who you are.
Yeah.
Because if that was truly who you were, you wouldn't be frustrated and sad about it. You would be content because that's who you would be. And the fact that you're frustrated and not content about it is your body going, ding, 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 this is not who you are.
Yeah.
So that should be a great sign of that's not who I am. Otherwise I'd be happy right now.
Yeah. I love that so much. And then we kind of went a little over on the show, but I'm a firm believer in letting conversation take a natural course, which it completely did. But to kind of wrap us up, I know you have a book. So do you want to tell our audience a little bit more?
So this is my daughter. Well, this is a few years ago when she had pink hair.
That's great. I love
but
that.
yeah, and it's childhood cancer. We're in this month that we're recording this in September. So my book is called Making Cancer Fun. And if you know any families or they're going through a diagnosis, actually her surgeon, who's one of the top surgeons, wrote the intro for it. It's been endorsed by a bunch of nurses, and it's just a guide for parents on how to cope with cancer. It's really a guide to cope. How do you cope? What are the tools and the resources that I used that will not only shape your experience, but will shape your child's experience?
Yeah.
And I actually have a friend who lost her son, and she and I was shocked because she said, I wish I had had this book.
Oh,
and
wow.
I thought, wow, I mean, I that's a whole other level that I don't even dare to go down. But to know that it would help a family regardless of what the outcome is, I think was really huge for me. And there's tons of medical research behind the power of fun and the immune system and what it does. And you can certainly search my TEDx talk on that. That's what it was all about, was the science behind why fun is a powerful coping tool. And if you want to connect with me, I would love for you to connect. You can go to Tara G, so just my name, taragonline.com. And that will connect you to the Making Cancer Fun stuff. That'll connect you to my business, Facebook, all that kind of good stuff.
Okay, that sounds awesome. And for everybody listening, all those links that she just mentioned are going to be in the description for this podcast. So those are going to be super easy for you guys to find and connect with Tara. And I hope that you guys truly enjoyed this conversation as much as I have. Sometimes you just get like super lucky with these amazing kind of groundbreaking conversations. So Tara, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much. I love talking with you.
Absolutely. All right, you guys, my name's Krista. I'm your host today for the Women Going Big podcast, and I'm going to go ahead and sign us off. I hope that wherever you are and whatever time it is, whatever day it is, I hope that you guys remain grateful for where you are, no matter what you're doing. And I hope that this was a little light in your day. So until next time, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye, guys.